In this workbook, there are 4 separate worksheets, quarters 1, 2, 3, and 4, that all contain the same kind of data, but the data, of course, is for separate quarters. And as I click on the sheet quarter 2, it has the exact same layout as quarter 1, and as you would expect, quarter 3, quarter 4. All 4 of these sheets have exactly the same layout. They've got totals in column E in each case, too, as I click on the various quarter sheets here. Now, we've also got a summary sheet set up here, and the summary sheet is gathering totals from the various quarterly sheets. So for example, in cell B3, and you can see in the formula bar, there's a formula that gathers the data from cell E3 on the quarter 1 sheet. So the formulas on the summary sheet are gathering data from column E. And as we go back to the summary sheet, same thing is happening for quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. And for reference, I've highlighted all the cells with border features that contain formulas that are getting data from those other sheets. Elsewhere in this worksheet, the other formulas are simply tabulating data gathered from those other sheets. Again, remember, the sheets that have these special borders on them are gathering data by way of linkage formulas from the other sheets. Now, what would be really handy to do here, and we can do it, is to take this data that we see here and copy-paste it so that it exists on the other sheets as well. And we want to do this so that it's not just a picture, a static image, but actually a dynamic link. And so the idea is we want this image here to exist on our quarter 1 and quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4 sheets, and we want to be able to make changes when necessary so that if we make a change on the quarter 1 sheet, we'll know immediately the impact that it has on the summary sheet. Because what we're about to do is to copy this data and then paste it as a link. So we select the data on our summary sheet and simply do a copy. Control-C, right-click copy, any of the different ways you might want to copy. We'll go to the quarter 1 sheet, click in cell H1, and then, not by right-click, not by way of paste special, but by way of the paste button on the Home tab, the drop arrow, other paste options, the last one we see, linked picture, and there it is. Now, it's a little bit tricky to read, and what you could explore is on the Format tab, the Contextual Format tab that appears when this image has been pasted. You could click Color, explore some of these. Now, this seems to be only changing those thin lines, and that's a little bit tricky to read. Let's go back for a second and try this a different way. Remember, this is a picture. We can move it around. We can shrink it. But it is showing what's happening on the summary sheet. Let's go back to that summary sheet. And with this data still highlighted, maybe apply a background color. Maybe a blue, possibly a light blue. What's happened on the quarter 1 sheet? That's a bit easier to read, isn't it? Now, ideally what we want to do here too is to make this image more or less line up with the image on the left. So we might have to explore a little bit some options by dragging the corner. In other words, why not let these information line up perfectly left to right? Now, with this in place, what are we trying to do here? Let's imagine that our original estimates, and let's imagine this whole scheme here is based on our estimates for next year. If our sales in January, instead of 25,600, go up to, let's say, 27,000, we have formulas that you haven't seen yet. In February and in March, these totals are based on what happens in January. And on the second quarter sheets, we've got similar formulas that are initially based on March and then based on subsequent months. So there's an undoubted ripple effect here. If we change this 25,600, the immediate impact here will be to change February and March and this total. And this total, 78346, we can also see off to the right. There it is there. Once again, moving this up and down a little bit, resizing it, making it look just perfect with our list to the left in terms of a left-right display. So here's that 78346. We see it to the right. So what happens if we change the January number to 27,000? It's going to have impact on 3 cells to the right and on that linked image. The total is now 82,631. So what do we see over here? So as we make changes here to our estimates on the first quarter sheet, because we've got formulas on the summary sheet, and because we have a linked image of that summary sheet, we can see what's happening immediately to our yearly totals. Now we need to do the same kind of thing for quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. So it's simply a question of going back to our summary sheet. The date is selected, we'll copy it, Control C, go to the quarter 2 sheet, click here, paste button on the home tab, last choice, linked picture. Go to quarter 3, do the same kind of thing. You might even be able to press F4 there and go to the quarter sheet here. And for some reason, F4 doesn't work there. F4 does mean repeat the action, but we can certainly go back to summary here. Another Control C, go to quarter 4, click here, and once again, use that paste button, the last option. So on all 4 of these sheets, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, as we look at these sheets and manipulate these numbers in different ways, we can see how the impact occurs on the summary sheet because the summary sheet is always displayed here. Now, we don't necessarily have to have formulas in all these examples. The way it's set up now, they do. And so October here actually is a formula based on data from the previous quarter out of September. So right now, the way it's set up, only changes on quarterly 1 show the impact immediately without destroying formulas. In fact, right now, the way it's set up, only the January changes. Eventually, you might want to stabilize these other numbers. In other words, make them be here not by way of formulas, but any changes you make on any of these quarterly sheets will immediately appear on the summary sheet. And because each of these sheets has an image, a linked image, a live image, you might say, it's almost like having a camera focused on the summary sheet, the reactions will occur immediately. So once again, back on the quarter 1 sheet, we'll make a change here. Our shipping income, we think that's going to be a bit higher, maybe $27.50 on the first month. As we change this, once again, we'll see changes not only on this worksheet, but on our image to the right as we press enter. Instead of $81.70 for the total, remember we see it here, press enter, and we see a different total. And if we're on the quarter 2 sheet, we see how that's changed also, quarter 3 and quarter 4. But again, you want to experiment a little bit with the backgrounds and the sizing of each one of these. I think in each case, you'll probably want to size it the way I had done earlier. Drag from the lower right-hand corner, and then make those lines more or less appear the same so they line up with the data to the left. A linked image, a very powerful tool for keeping an eye on information in other worksheets.